Jeopardy! Fans are demanding that the show put a stop to contestants writing shoutouts in their Final Jeopardy responses, which is a great idea because they're unnecessary, distracting, and take away from the prestige of the game. During Jeopardy! Games, contestants must handwrite their answers to the Final Jeopardy question, which allows them the freedom to write whatever they want as responses. As a result, some add personal messages to their family members to their answers, or even write them as their only responses if they don't know the answer to the question. These Final Jeopardy! Shoutouts have become increasingly popular in more recent years of Jeopardy! Especially after Ken Jennings took over as the permanent host of the show in 2023, after beloved host Alex Trebek passed away. This trend has also infiltrated the tournament games, as well as Jeopardy! Masters, which is currently airing its third season in primetime. In a Reddit thread in the Jeopardy! Subreddit, user Peter4256 Home expressed their distaste for personal shoutouts in Jeopardy! Final question responses. In a thread titled, "Enough Already with Hi Mom on FJ Responses," they wrote, "The personal shoutouts on FJ responses are getting obtrusive and annoying. Rules need to be changed to either nothing but a legit response on FJ or allow or require personal notes on all other responses. E.g., what is Europe? Hi Mom, what is James and the Giant Peach? My favorite book in first grade." A fan agreed, stating that perhaps Jeopardy! Contestants could make better use of their time during the short 30 seconds they have to answer the Final Jeopardy question. They wrote, "Yeah, I believe they should only do that if they intentionally wager very little or $0. If it's a very competitive game and they wager a lot of money, they should probably use the entire 30 seconds to think of their best response instead of using some of that time to think of which person they want to give a shout out to, in my own opinion." Related, every contestant competing in the 2025 Jeopardy! Masters Tournament. The 2025 Jeopardy! Masters contestants have been revealed. Find out who'll return to compete in the epic showdown, which begins on April 30th. Some fans thought that host Ken was handling the messages correctly by mostly ignoring them. One fan responded, "I noticed that Ken has just been ignoring them when the outcome of the game is still in question, which I think is the right move." Another person wrote, "It has become more prevalent since I imagine future contestants see current ones writing their little greetings. With that said, I have no issue with it and would probably do the same if I was going to be on the show. With rare exceptions, Ken doesn't read them out loud, so it doesn't affect the show at all." However, other fans saw nothing wrong with the Final Jeopardy! Shoutouts and expressed their disagreement with the original post. One person wrote, "I really don't see the problem. Nobody's getting hurt. No one is taking up half the show to tell a story. There's nothing wrong with it. Honestly, it's kind of cool. Your support system is a big reason you're on that stage in the first place after all. Nobody can do it alone. That's just straight up discouraging." Another Jeopardy! Fan added, "Alternatively, you could just ignore the messages." Jeopardy! Contestant Anis K. Strong Morse also defended adding personal messages to Final Jeopardy! Responses, citing her own experience as a reason why they should be allowed. She wrote, "Well, I wish you could have seen my now daughter literally leap in the air for joy when she saw her own name written on the screen last night." Anis continued, "I was thanking her for, of her own volition, meticulously keeping score with tally marks for me for every single Jeopardy game for 6 whole weeks. That's going to be one of my most cherished memories of this whole experience, and I don't really see how it detracted at all from my clearly written correct FJ answer. But you do you." Jeopardy! Is the most prestigious game show on the air today. It requires an incredible amount of prior knowledge, preparation, and natural intelligence. When a contestant writes a personal greeting in their Final Jeopardy! Response or uses it for their response when they don't know the answer to the question, it ruins the integrity of the show by reducing it to something cutesy and irrelevant. However, banning these shout-outs seems overly harsh. One Reddit user pointed out that it would be difficult to enforce a ban on the messages. They wrote, "Personally, I'm fine with the little notes, but you're absolutely entitled to your opinion on this. I just wanted to mention that by all accounts, based on what contestants have shared here, production discourages them from writing the notes, but obviously it happens anyway. Beyond that, I'm not sure what more the show could do. I don't think this rises to the level of needing rules prohibiting the behavior. What would the punishment even be? Take away money? Invalidate a correct response? None of these would go over well. Another user noted that these personal messages might be the Jeopardy! Contestants' only chance to mention their loved ones on the show, writing, well, where else besides the contestant chats are people going to greet their families/relatives? Another agreed and added, the contestants are getting their 30 minutes of fame and one-time chance on TV. I don't care if they want to take a couple seconds to make a shout out. It takes away absolutely nothing from my enjoyment of the show. I think you may just need to learn to be a little more tolerant about the small things in life. Although this might be true, Final Jeopardy! Is not the time or the place for a personal shout out to a family member or friend. Because Jeopardy! Is so strict about answering in the form of a question and being very specific when the questions call for it. It seems strange that the show would allow personal messages on the screen for Final Jeopardy! Technically, adding a shout out to an answer makes that response wrong, so personal greetings shouldn't be allowed. While penalties shouldn't be in place for them, they should be highly discouraged and maybe even banned. I don't think that Jeopardy! Fans are being too judgmental about contestants adding personal shout-outs to their Final Jeopardy! Responses. In fact, I've been saying the same thing for a long time. I understand that contestants want to acknowledge their loved ones on the air, but I don't agree with them doing it on the screen where they write the answer to the most important question of the game because it's distracting and unnecessary. I especially dislike it when Jeopardy! Contestants only write something like, "Hi Mom," instead of making an educated guess for their answer. It feels like they just gave up and ruins the suspense of the game. In addition, in my opinion, there's nothing worse in a game of Jeopardy! Than a Final Jeopardy! Answer of, what is? I had fun. Although writing personal shoutouts isn't hurting anyone and might even be seen as a harmless quirk, I wish Jeopardy! Had another way for contestants to acknowledge their loved ones. Perhaps at the very end of the show, after Final Jeopardy! They could write a message to their loved ones that would display on their screens when Ken chats with them during the end credits. This would be a good compromise that would keep irrelevant messages out of the game, but also allow the contestants to send love and gratitude to their families and friends. This small change could keep all Jeopardy! Fans happy.